And now, time for something just a little bit different. Hey guys. I don't know why it says goat format there. Let me just fix that. There we go. So today, I want to do something just a little bit different. And talk about my love for trading card games, TCGs, whatever you want to call them. And I've been avoiding this for a couple reasons I'll go into, but I just also wanted to say that if you're looking forward to the Sonic Adventure 1, Adventure 2 video, something of that will come out next week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit both of them into one big ass video, or if I need to separate them like the original plan was. But something about that will come out, or it'll be a scripted video, but this is just me talking. Maybe I'll play a game or two on this, I don't know. But ever since I was a kid, I always had a problem getting along with other kids. I don't know. I'm not really good in social situations, I guess. I always just try to be nice, but sometimes I just lose my temper, and that's that. So one thing, and another thing is, I didn't have the easiest time through school. I don't know why, but that's not what this video is about. Um, so Pokemon is really the gateway to all of this. In all reality, Pokemon caused me to be where I am with card games nowadays. What was I got addicted to Pokemon via the games and the show. And eventually I just got a couple trading cards around the first couple of Hoenn sets, because that's when I was becoming old enough to understand and read, and I would just collect the Pokemon I cared about. I was always fascinated by the game, but the problem is that no kid at the knew how to play, right? So I remember there was this one time where we were sitting around the playground and I got a kid to play with me, but he kept telling me that he could equip energies, the energy cards, which are basically that game's mana system, to my Pokemon and kill them with it because they would be poisoned or something. Yeah, so I just never got really a good game in with that. This is also around the same time Yu-Gi-Oh! The first Yu-Gi-Oh! Season started airing on TV, or at least for us Canadians. So there was that. And, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was just this edgy version, When I first heard of Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm going to start a game up because, this is probably very boring to look at. When Yu-Gi-Oh! Started up, for us Canadians, I don't know, it felt like it took a while longer for it to catch on, but the point of the story is that uh can I get into a server? Failed to open. Okay. Do I need to update this? Alright, well, let's try the Europe servers. I don't know. Why are we casuals? There we go. Okay, we'll get into a game. Please upgrade. Oh. The old server used to update. Well, I don't know. Should I load it? This one's kind of new, so I don't actually know how to use it just yet. Let me just try closing it. I don't know. I'm not secret about this. Let's see if that worked. Yeah, we're in the right. Oh, okay. Well, can I? Load? No. All right. I would play a game, but apparently, can I have replay? All right. What is this? I don't even know what this is, and that's really loud. Okay. Well, apparently I don't have any replays. Do I have the old version of Yu-Gi-Oh still installed? Probably not. No. Okay. Well, I apologize. It's gonna be kind of a boring visual video. But anyway, yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh freaked me out for the first little bit. I wasn't terribly interested in it at first because it just freaked me out. Like the monsters were really, really scary looking compared to like cute and cuddly Pokemon. I realized I was a little kid, like I was in like kindergarten, and I did get into it later on, like in grade 3 or so. But I remember the first time I got really interested in it was when the movie came out. Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie Pyramid of Light, and seeing the Blue Eyes Shining Dragon, which in the real game is just a terrible card even when it came out, and the Sorcerer of Dark Magic, which I still stand by the point that if the right cards came out for that card, like an easier way to summon it, it would be good. But that's just me. Anyway, the problem was, again, no one knew how to play, because the problem with that was that the Pokemon anime never tried to pretend to teach you how to play. It gave you a couple tips. Like I think there was an early episode early on showing you that's a bad idea to fight a Metapod with another Metapod. But it was still very loosely based on the anime, like on the game. Like in one of the first episodes, Ash like gets Brock's Onyx wet and therefore is able to use electric type moves on it, which I will admit that did become a mechanic in the games later on. Like there's a special move that lets you do that, but it didn't teach you how to play. Yeah, so Yu-Gi-Oh! I do remember when I first built my deck, the only good cards I had was Last Will, which was funny when I came back to the game like years later, was that card was just super banned. Like it would never come back. I never even thought of it because at the time every kid had Lost Will, or whatever it's called. Sangan, which was banned for the longest time too, and eventually I got a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. I never had 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons at the same time, but I do know that I also never had a polymerization card. I was under the understanding that polymerization wasn't a real card because I had never seen one. I also had ambulance. Can I look this up? Lens. Is it gonna load the picture? All right. Well, we'll keep it on there and see if it loads. I also had this, and this was a GX era card, so I must have stopped carrying like around the GX era, which is kind of funny because as you can see, my favorite deck of all time is the Elemental Heroes, or well, all heroes really. So that's like the main deck of the main protagonist of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. So it's kind of funny that I stopped carrying at that point. I do remember like seeing outside things of it. Like I remember when 5Ds came out, it was like there's white monsters now. How the fuck does that work? But then again, I didn't even know how fusions work. So how was I supposed to understand synchro? Not that I knew how to play. These stars might have just been like rarity for all I knew. Then Chaotic came out, and Chaotic felt closer to home because I believe that was a French card game. Like it started off in France or something like that. And the premise was really cool. Like it was like a world that you could enter in via your like PDA device or something. And I was a big fan of Battle Network, so I had card games all over the place. All right, that's the point of the story here. The thing about it is though, when I switched schools, this was around when I was 10 years old. Bakugan was the newest thing at the time. That was a little card game where the mechanic was now that there was marbles that you could make stand on cards. They were magnetic, so like you would battle with these marbles called Bakugan. I was super excited because I remember being introduced to that and becoming interested in it in the summer between when I was transferring schools. This was in my 6th grade year. And when I came to the school, I only knew like 2 kids from my old school because, the new school had opened and therefore the busing zones had all changed. So I was had to go to this one. The problem was is that the dynamic of what was cool just completely changed on me. I was already not a cool kid at the other school, but at this new one, not even my interests were cool, Pokemon was, I'm not going to say the word they used for it, but it's derogatory to use that word. But I'll just say, just to give you an example, it rhymes with A. All right, that's as far as I'm going to say with it. Pokemon was dumb. Yu-Gi-Oh was dumb. The only thing that was cool were tech decks and iPod Nanos and touches and Call of Duty. It was just a complete dynamic shift, and it kind of sucked because I felt like I had to give all this stuff up, or else I'd be picked on more than I already was. That was the end of it for like a few years. And then in 2013, 2012, I started going to high school. And, the thing is, middle school was probably the worst part of my schooling life, was just that I had so many problems with like teachers and staff and stuff that, it was really hard to get by with stuff. But when I went to high school, suddenly nobody gave a shit anymore. The people that looked down on me for having interests were suddenly, oh, no one cares about them. Like, fuck them. They can like sit in their little corner, like 12 of them and whatever. Like I was worried when I went to high school that um it'd be worse because I've seen movies. I've seen cartoons, I've seen TV. Like, everyone always made it out to be that high school was going to be the worst part of my life because I was a nerd. But really, all it just did was bring back my other nerdy friends. And the first thing we tried when I first started going there was Magic the Gathering. Now, Magic and me have a very complicated life together because I have nothing against the card game, but rather it just felt impossible to get into because, it was fine when we just had starter decks and stuff, and like we would just play with whatever was like new, and we didn't care about a list. Like, if you had some like old cards, you could just throw them in. Like, we didn't care about the cycle formats and stuff. But then one of my non really big friends, I'm not gonna be honest, I was never a big fan of him, but he just, kind of hang out with us. He dropped a ridiculous amount of money. Ridiculous. And he just built this deck that basically none of us could counter because he just put that kind of money into it. And it was just like the most ridiculously powerful cards that none of us could counter. And that really put a sore taste in my mouth for the longest time. And, that sucks because, I did have fun with it for a little bit. The problem is that, and another thing that happened was the people around that would play Magic that I found out about weren't the nicest people either. Like, this was a hobby that they'd been doing for like 10 years, so they were pretty, like, snobby. Which comes, like when you play something for long enough that you become kind of an expert at it, usually you get a little snobby and a little high up for your britches. That just is bound to happen. But I don't know. Like, I had problems with Magic players as I continued playing other games. That's just how it happened. Um, I think I did try to like get into Pokemon again, like the card game. Like I always played Pokemon the game, but with the card game, at the time there just wasn't a scene for it, so I just couldn't play it with anybody. That's when my friend suggested we get into Yu-Gi-Oh. Now, Yu-Gi-Oh was way simpler. We at the time, this was like around the end-ish of 2013. They had re-released this Yugi and Kaiba Reloaded starter deck. It wasn't good. Like at the time, it was terrible. All right, but for two kids that just wanted to like learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh properly again, it was great. And it did take a little bit for me to learn stuff. Like eventually, like I got a Synchro Monster Majestic Star Dragon from a tin somewhere. Like somebody gave it to me or something. I had no friggin' idea what it was telling me to do to summon it, and then yeah, so I I don't know. I think I worked it like a ritual summon, where as long as I used the correct tuner monster that was on the card, so like Majestic Dragon, yeah, the card never loaded. I was like, oh yeah, I'm looking at my card deck right now. Um, uh, what was I saying? All right. Oh yeah. So yeah, I figured it worked like a ritual summon, like you could go over, but with a synchro monster you can't. All right. So I figured that out. Xyz monsters were way easier to understand. Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal was still the newest anime at the time, so the newest like generation of Yu-Gi-Oh! So Xyz monsters, all you had to do, I don't actually have one in this deck because they've been kind of power crept, but you just take two monsters that are the same level. So you see Stratos here. That's a sorry, my mouse is a little weird. Stratos is level 4. Liquid Soldier here is level 4. You just put them on top of each other and they become material for a black type of card. So whatever. Anyway, that was way simpler to understand. Like the monsters just become material, like kind of like mana. Like if you attach energy to a Pokemon, it's basically the same concept. A little bit more complicated than that, but I'm not going to explain how to play Yu-Gi-Oh in this episode. uh, yeah, so I never had a problem learning how to play Yu-Gi-Oh. With Magic, there was like a lot of keywords you had to understand, like trample and reach, which I know what they do now. But at the time, it was kind of hard to understand, all the time with all these specific keywords, especially when my friends were playing cards from whatever era they wanted. It was just kind of hard to understand. But with Yu-Gi-Oh, everything was like it was pretty easy to learn how to read these texts. Like I know people get scared because there's like a lot of text on cards nowadays. Like I think there's like a really bad one. You can't read that, I know, but you can just see like this little image of the card, like how bad it kind of gets. There we go. Liquid Soldier is pretty bad, but it's all stated in the card. Like there's very few keywords, which to a new player is kind of nice. So yeah, and then I found out that there was a place in town that would have tournaments, and I voice squeaked there. I started going there. I was super excited. I was playing like a Dark Magician, like Yugi Magician deck. It was really bad, and you know I had to learn how to play without the ban list, and I got some suggestions the first time I played. The first time I went, I actually traded for alternate art, so the rare art of Dark Paladin. Why are all the card arts not loading? I'm sorry. Anyway, so yeah, like I learned how to make my Dark Magician deck a little better. And then I built another Dark Magician deck that combined Blue Eyes. See, I'm not going to go into like exactly how it worked, but there was this newer Blue Eyes card that came out while I was taking a break, which basically made it so that if you targeted this weak card with anything like an attack or an effect, it would special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon, and it just happened to be Spellcaster. And there's this Dark Magician support card that I believe came from the show, where the idea was that you targeted a Spellcaster with it, you destroy it, you special summon a Dark Magician, and then you destroy a monster of theirs. You might not destroy the card you target. I don't remember how it works, but You basically target your monster, which triggered this little blue eyes card, Maiden. Maiden was its name, and you'd special summon a Dark Magician, right? Because of Magical Dimension. But then you could trigger it and also summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon from anywhere. And that was really cool, you know? Like I could just bust this out. Again, this wasn't very good, but there was like ways to like make cards think that they were Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon, and then you could use them to fuse. So if as long as no one was playing meta, you know, it kind of worked. But eventually, what I did was I built elemental heroes. So at the time, Stratos was banned, and it would be banned for a long time. Shadow Mist didn't exist yet. I'm trying to look at any of these cards. All right, Malicious did exist, but it was just unusable in the deck I played. Yeah, I don't think a single card here was used in that original version. All right, so yeah, this one, this and you. Those were basically the only hero cards from that era that I still play. Things like Bubble Man, Neos Alias, which is, you know, basically a non-effect monster and stuff. That basically filled my deck, and I fell in love with Mass Change, because what Mass Change does is it's like Fusion, but with only one monster. You just send it from your field and you can summon it. And because it's a quick play spell, like an instant in Magic, there's a lot of shenanigans you can do with that. And, you know, that was a lot of fun. That was basically my best deck up until around when Duelist Alliance came out. And when Duelist Alliance came out, I wanted to build a meta deck. And Duelist Alliance was a great time for that, because Duelist Alliance just basically changed how Yu-Gi-Oh would work, like with it, not with its actual effects or anything, but with just how they would design cards from that point on. So out of Duelist Alliance, the best decks out were the Shadals, which is where I went. It was a new Fusion deck, which at the time Fusion was really rare. And then there's the Tellarknights, which were basically XC versions or better versions of an already existing archetype called Constellars and stuff. And then there was Yang Zing, which everybody expected to do a lot better than they actually ended up doing. And then there was the TCG exclusive archetype, Burning Abyss, and no one expected that to do anything, because in the past, most TCG exclusive cards were pretty much ignored. Burning Abyss changed that. Burning Abyss basically have been consistently meta this entire time. Even as I'm making this video, I'm pretty sure there's at least a Burning Abyss version of a deck that, you know, tops something. It's kind of on a slow period right now, but I'm sure you're going to hear something about it soon. Anyway, so I put the money towards building Shadals, and, you know, this is where my frustrations with card games began for a little bit, because, you know, I was a broke like grade 9 student, you know, like I didn't have a lot of money. And when I finally put all this money together to build this Shadal deck, then I built this Lightsworn variant, because Lightsworn were really cheap because the structure deck just came out of them not too long ago. But then it was discovered that the best way to do it was really to use new monster out of the set that came out after, new challengers or next challengers. I can't remember, because I know they changed the name of that set for us. Anyway, Denko Sekka came out, and it was basically a light level 4 that turned off back row spell and trap cards. So basically, this is a trap card, right? You set it down before you can use it. This is kind of a bad example, because this one actually can be used from the hand. But for the most part, trap cards have to be set, right? What Denko Sekka basically makes it so that you can't set cards, and any cards that were already set before you summon Denko Sekka basically couldn't be activated. So it was kind of like a level 4 version of a card that already existed called Jinzo, which is kind of better, you know, because you could just normal summon it. You didn't have to tribute anything for it. Yeah, so that card was really expensive when it first came. I think like 30, 40 bucks, which doesn't sound that bad, maybe. You know, like there's going to be some people that are like $40 for a trading card, and then there's going to be people, oh yeah, like 40 bucks is cheap. Get good, you broke bitch. You know, that's just how it is. You know, card games aren't cheap because people want these cards, and the companies, you know, obviously make certain cards harder to get than others. you know. So that was kind of hard, but I think I just kept going with the version I had. Like I didn't bother getting Denko Seka until like after the tins came out. But then around the same time, I lost my hero deck, and I don't mean lost. I got it stolen, and that really hurt my feelings because my hero deck, even though it wasn't my best deck, it was my favorite. But then something weird happened, and a new structure deck was announced that involved heroes. So I was really excited for this, and it gave us Elemental Hero Shadow Mist here. Shadow Mist was amazing because when it came out, basically if you special summoned it, so if there was an effect of a monster that could special summon it, you could search a mass change. And at the time, there were no really dark heroes. Like Destiny heroes were basically it, these two, but no one played Plasma because there's just too many resources. And Malicious was good, and some people did use it, but it just didn't really mesh well with the rest of the deck at the time because it was just too much of a brick to draw. But then we got Dark Law, and what you're looking at is basically the card that got me my first tops at the locals. This card is great. I'll try to explain it to people that don't play card games that much. Basically, what it does is it turns off your opponent's graveyard. Any card that they would send to the graveyard is just removed from play. And at this time in Yu-Gi-Oh, getting cards to the graveyard was really important for a lot of different strategies. Okay, so that was already enough. But then it has another effect where if any card that was sent to your opponent's added to their hand, so if they played a search card or anything, which is very common in this game. Like in this deck, I have one, two, no, three, four, five technically, six, seven different searchers just in the main deck. All right, there's probably something else that I'm forgetting. Yeah, this one does too. But the point is, searching is very common. All right, so the fact that it can like banish a random card from their hand the first time they try to search anything, and if you like use it right, so you have a Dark Law out. They're like, all right, I have to play the searcher. It's gonna get rid of a card in my hand, but I hope it just goes well. So then they do it, and then they're like, all right, well now I'm safe. So then they play another search card because Mass Change is a quick play. You can change your one Dark Law into your other one and banish another card from their hand. Okay, that's how good that card is. Is it ever been the best card in the game? No, not even close. But it's just been a really solid card that's screwed anybody over. And my strategy was just to protect it with cards like Forbidden Lance and Mirror Force and stuff like that. Cards that I don't play anymore. See, as we went on, heroes were kind of just a rogue deck. Like they just couldn't consistently put out the kind of damage that other decks could. But slowly by slowly, I started getting more cards. Like I think the first new ones were these Destiny heroes here, which didn't do a whole lot for me until this card came out much later, Dark Neostorm. But I'm getting way too far into this hero deck. But basically, what I want to say is that as time went on, my hero deck turned from a rogue deck into a better rogue deck. It's never going to be tier 1. It's just going to be better in some formats than others. And when I got Stratos back, which was a meme with me a long time, was that, oh, Jarrett doesn't have Stratos. Stratos is in jail, like all that. It felt really good to get him back. And now that we can play 3 copies of it, it's kind of ridiculous. So, anyway, there were other decks I really liked to play as time went on. I got really good with Cosmo, which were basically this Wizard of Oz, like Star Wars style deck. That basically the entire point was to use these pilots to summon ships. And there was Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes became really good at a point. And then Spiral. Spiral is like super agents. Like they combo through your deck and they just use the brand new Link monsters, which are the newest mechanic as of right now, to turbo out a boss monster. And there's some others. I'm sure I'm forgetting about a lot, but the point is, I played Yu-Gi-Oh pretty religiously for a good chunk of my life. Throughout high school, after high school, and I try to help out my local store as much as I can. And this is kind of where it gets a little sad. See, what happened is there was just a point where I was in a dark place, and the only thing I cared about was this card game. And eventually, instead of just buying all the cards myself, I grouped up with a couple of my friends that I made through this card game to kind of like help things out. But of course, there became a point where, I was consistently doing well, but my friends might not have been. So there was some talk where, oh, Jared's using the best cards in this group, so, he's the one that tops. So, I stopped playing for a little bit, let everybody else play with the somewhat harder to get cards, just to make sure that, they felt that they were not being used or whatever. Like, that wasn't the intention of why I started that little group up in the first place, was to manipulate people. I just wanted to help everybody out, and I guess I just got considered the best player out of my little group. I don't think I was ever the best player there, but I think I was at least somewhat pretty good. You know, I did top a few times, quite a bit when I I really wanted to, but there was just a point where all I really cared about was using this card game. And the thing was that when I didn't have a whole lot of money, I would sell off some cards. Either cards I didn't need or want anymore, I would use to like get myself a new game or something, or get the group a game or something. And eventually, I guess I just started doing some stupid stuff. I don't want to get into it, but basically, I made a mistake with something I thought nobody wanted. Turns out that person wanted it, and I don't know, there's not really a way I can make up for it. But it didn't really matter at that point because with what's going on in the world right now, the store I spent a good chunk of my life playing in got closed down. And right now, it's not looking like I'm going to be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh in person again in a local tournament for a long, long time. So, you know, I try not to make Yu-Gi-Oh content become like a normal thing on the channel or any card game, because I'm not just interested in this game. Like, there's tons of card games I like. It's just the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh is that there's an easy to play simulator. Magic has Arena now, and the problem with Arena is that it does expect you to use actual money. So, being somebody that, would rather get like a AAA game or something to stream, it's kind of hard to justify using that same money to, buy a couple digital packs and win virtual cards. Pokemon has the same kind of deal. So, Yu-Gi-Oh is just easy for me to play. I know the game basically inside and out, and I haven't been keeping up with the recent meta because what's the point? It's not like there's any tournaments going on right now, anyways. I was supposed to go to original April, and well, we all know what happened in March. So, yeah, I also wanted to end on one thing, and I wanted to thank everyone that I played with, because honestly, I went through some really dark points in my life when with this game, and I see. I knew I'd break down here. I just want to say thank you to everybody that put up with me through my worst. Because when the only thing you care about is showing up, playing a card game, maybe, making a sale so you can go get some food or something. It just, I think it brings out the worst in me. And I just wanted to say that, shout it out even though it doesn't no longer exists. I want to thank everybody that has either run or been to or, helped me out at Hangar 19. Um, Sometimes I don't think I deserved to go, but you know, it it really helped me, and I just hope just one day, I could go and play another Yu-Gi-Oh tournament somewhere again. Play other tournaments too. Like if I ever had the extra money, I'd like to have a deck in every major game that exists right now. But I'm gonna try to cheer up, and there's more stuff I could talk about here, but I think I've been going on long enough. Sorry, I got a phone call there, so I just quickly wanted to add, if card games for simulators is something you guys want to see, or maybe me stream it, I don't know. Let me know. It's just been something that I've been trying to avoid for the longest time, but yeah, card games mean a lot to me, and I don't know. I gotta end the video here. Have a good one, guys. Peace out.